Frida Kahlo, the artist who painted herself, by Frida Fry. Written by Margaret Frith. My name is Frida. It's not an ordinary name, and when I found out that there was an artist named Frida, I picked her for my report. Her full name is Frida Kahlo. She spells her name with an I. I use an IE. I love to dress up. So did Frida. I know this because of all the pictures she painted of herself. She always wore fancy clothes with long skirts. I'll tell you why later. The painting on the opposite page is one of her fanciest pictures. She even painted a tiny picture of her husband right on her forehead. Weird. Frida Kahlo is from Mexico. She is Mexico's most famous woman artist. The paintings she did of herself are called self-portraits. She put bright-colored ribbons and flowers through her thick black braids. She wore earrings and necklaces made of jade and silver. She wore tons of rings on her fingers. Frida was born in Mexico on July 6, 1907. Her mother was from Mexico. Her father came from Germany. He was a photographer. She had 3 sisters, but she was her father's favorite. He said, "She's the most like me." I think that when Frida grew up, she looked a lot like her grandma on her father's side. She's at the top right of the picture. The family lived in a small town near Mexico City. They called their house the Casa Azul. That's Spanish for blue house. Frida painted herself as a little girl standing in the courtyard of the blue house. She uses a red ribbon to tie herself to her family. When Frida was 6, she got very sick. She had a disease called polio. She couldn't walk, and she had to stay in bed for almost a year. She was by herself a lot. She made up a pretend friend. The friend didn't speak, but she laughed and danced, and Frida told her all her secrets. When Frida was better, her right leg was very thin. Her father made her ride a bicycle and swim, but her leg was still thin. At school, kids teased her. They called her Frida Pato a Palo, Frida Pegleg. Frida wore long skirts to hide her leg. Frida went to another school where she was 15. She met new friends. They called themselves the Caps for the red caps they wore. They liked Frida because she was funny and did crazy things. Once, a famous painter was at the school working on a big picture that he was painting on the wall. This kind of painting is called a mural. He was a big man. Frida rubbed soap on the steps where he walked every day. She hoped he would slip and fall down like a clown, but he didn't. His name was Diego Rivera. Frida was 18 when she was badly hurt in a terrible bus accident. She had to stay in bed again for a long time. Frida had never thought about painting. She thought she might be a doctor. One day, her mother gave her some paints and brushes and put a big mirror in the canopy over the bed. Frida could look up and see her face. She started to paint pictures of herself. Frida stayed at home for 2 years. She painted over 24 paintings of herself, her sisters, and her friends. When Frida got better, she took 4 of the paintings to Diego Rivera. She didn't really know him, but she remembered him painting that big picture at her school. She found him, and there he was still painting big pictures up on walls. Frida called up to him, "Diego, come down." And he did. I think she was so brave to do that. Diego looked at her paintings. He said he liked the one of her in a velvet dress. "It's original," he said. He meant that she hadn't copied another artist's way of doing a painting. He told her to go home and do another painting. He would go to her house the next Sunday and look at it. He did, and 2 years after that, Frida and Diego got married. I wonder if he ever knew that she was the girl who soaped the steps. Frida's father called them the elephant and the dove. Maybe that's why she put a dove in her painting. Frida and Diego went to San Francisco. Diego had a job working on murals. Frida met new people and she painted some of them. A man named Dr. Leo Aloyser became her doctor and her good friend. Sometimes Frida's paintings look like weird dreams. But Frida said, "I never painted dreams." She said she just painted what she saw. I think she meant what she saw in her imagination. At first, the painting below looks very strange, but it is of a scientist named Luther Burbank. He was famous for growing new kinds of plants. So it makes sense that Mr. Burbank is in a painting with lots of trees. Frida and Diego left San Francisco and went home to New York and Detroit. Frida really missed home. In New York, she painted, "My dress hangs here." She is not wearing the dress, so where is she? Maybe she is wishing she were back in Mexico. After 3 years, Frida and Diego finally took a boat home. Frida and Diego still went on trips to visit other countries. Once Frida went to Paris and met the famous painter Pablo Picasso. He taught her songs and gave her clay earrings in the shape of hands, one for each ear. In 1941, Frida and Diego moved to the Blue House where Frida was born. They painted the front of the house a really deep blue that in Spanish is called Azul Anil. This was supposed to keep out evil spirits. They added green and red around the doors and windows. I think it is a really pretty house. She grew lots of plants and flowers, such as marguerites, mimosas, and jasmines. She kept parrots, songbirds, parakeets, cats, dogs, monkeys, and a little deer called granizo. They were all over the courtyard and in the garden. I wish I could go to Mexico and see the Blue House. It is still there, and you can visit it. Frida loved living in the Blue House with Diego. She cooked, she laughed. Friends and family came to eat. They all talked, they argued, they sang until it was late at night. And Frida painted in the studio that Diego built for her. Frida loved to dress up her dining room table just like she loved to dress up herself. She put flowers in her hair to match the ones on the table. Or she wore a necklace made of the flowers from the table. She liked mimosas and marguerites a lot. Frida collected things from all over Mexico. She bought toys and dolls to add to the ones she had as a child. She put them in the Blue House. She especially liked figures made out of paper mache. Paper mache is paper that you mix with a wet mixture until it gets mushy. Then you can shape it into whatever you want, and when it dries, it is hard, like a rock. I read that she even had a paper mache skeleton as big as a person hanging next to her bed. Frida loved holidays, especially a Mexican holiday called the Day of the Dead. It takes place on 2 days, November 1 and 2. It sounds like a sad holiday, but it is not. It is a happy time to remember family and friends who have died. Every year, Frida decorated a table with candles and golden flowers. Then she put all of her mother and father's favorite foods on the table, along with little sugar skulls and sugar animals, lambs, chickens, and ducks. There were also small dancing skeletons made out of paper mache. It sounds as if Frida was always having a good time, but she wasn't. Ever since the bus accident, she was in pain. She had 32 operations, and she had to wear a brace or a corset most of her life. That's probably why she kept on wearing those long skirts. Frida was grateful to her doctors for taking care of her. Once, she wrote in her diary, "Dr. Farrell saved me. He brought me the joy of living." Frida kept an interesting diary. She drew all over the pages. Some of her drawings are so strange, I can't even tell what they are. And she didn't just write in it like most people do. She used colored pencils, pens, and watercolors, and the colors she used matched what she was writing about. Red, yellow, green, and brown writing are all over the pages, along with her skeletons. This is a page from my diary, the way Frida might have written it. Dear Diary, we went to the zoo today on our class trip. I saw lots of animals just like the ones Frida had in her garden. Spider monkeys, a fawn, that's a little deer, parrots. Frida's parrots probably spoke Spanish. Sometimes Frida put her animals in her paintings. I'm going to put my cat in the next painting. A big thing happened to Frida in 1953. It is very special to have your paintings and no one else's in a show. Frida was the first woman artist in Mexico to have her own show. The first night is called the opening. She really wanted to be there, but she was too sick to walk or use her wheelchair. So they put her four-poster bed in the middle of the room and carried her in on a stretcher. Frida was so brave, she never gave up. Even when she had to stay in bed, she kept painting and dressing in her wonderful clothes. She wore her jewelry and braided her hair in ribbons or flowers. She always looked just like a painting. I like Frida's paintings a lot. I am proud to have the same name. So many of her paintings are of herself. Still, they are all different. Some make me feel sad. Some make me laugh. Some make me wonder where she got her ideas, because they are so strange, like this one. You can't stop looking at it, even though it's kind of scary. But not this one. Juicy red watermelons with bright green skins. It was one of the last paintings Frida did. She was just 47 years old when she died in 1954. It's my favorite because of what she wrote on the watermelon. Viva la vida. That means long live life. I say, Viva la Frida. The end.